everybody, and welcome back to the Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain Red Sofa here in Michigan for our global event. I'm here with Bridget Grewal, who's the Director of Packaging Continuous Improvement at Magna International. Welcome, Bridget, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Your presentation earlier highlighted how phytosanitary incidents can cause hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage and even stop shipments completely. How is Magna building packaging processes that reduce that risk both internally and with external suppliers?
So it was a very complicated process. We had failures coming in from Europe. We had failures coming in from Mexico. And we realized that we needed to train internally our material handlers so that we could have their eyes examine the wood as it came into the plant and examine the wood as it came out of the plant. That would take care of production. We thought that was pretty safe. But then we also realized that there were failures coming from our engineering group and our program management group because we build equipment overseas, and when they ship the equipment in after run it rate, they might just grab any Home Depot product and bring the wood over, and that's not acceptable. So we had to train them too. We also had to go down to our supply base and be able to get the supply base understanding ISPM 15 and also creating training and communications with them so that they could communicate with their people.
Yeah, absolutely. Bridget, many packaging professionals aren't necessarily aware of phytosanitary risks, but at the same time, packaging is becoming a part of ESG and compliance conversations. How do you see these threads coming together, and what new skills would packaging teams need?
Yeah, well, first we need to be informed of the regulations. The new regulation in Europe for certification for not being deforested is important. I had to understand from my trade compliance team, who is it going to affect? How is it going to affect Magna? It seems simpler than it actually is. And so now I have to train my packaging engineers on what we need to do and how we need to do it. The certifications don't have to go with every shipment because the package is not the primary, as long as there are parts or something with that package. So that's good. That means we only have to survey the full truckloads of pallets that we purchase. So that's easier than trying to do onesie-twosie on each and every part. So it's really going to be communication and training and making everybody aware that we need to pay attention to what's going on, not only in the United States, but what's going on across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of different tools for container visibility, from simple barcodes to GPS and cellular tracking. How do you decide when it's worth stepping up to that advanced tracking, and what's the default stack that works best today?
Well, the barcode's already there, so we have that to rely on. And as long as we can scan the barcode, we have been able to do that for many years. And there's a standard, so that works out well. With the sensor technology that's becoming cheaper, which is why we're able to use it, you have to look at your fleet size and you have to evaluate what it is what data do you want to have. And so if you review inside of your plant and you say, I want to know where the parts are at every location within my plant, say paint and mold and assembly, then that is going to take a big infrastructure. That's a lot of read points. And it's a lot of space. So you would need something that reads a long way. In that case, I would pick something like BLE. If you're shipping containers and you're trying to count them as they come through your dock to say, my customer shipped 100 containers, I received 100 containers, then you can use something. If you can dedicate that dock, you might be able to get away with passive RFID. If you can't dedicate that dock and you need to equip all of your inbound docks and your outbound docks, again, I would go more towards BLE. GPS we're using right now is a diagnostic. So if we have, say, BLE on the container or a barcode, and when those containers are getting lost, then we will put GPS on a small percentage, 3 to 5% of the containers, and be able to track exactly where they're going. And as it turns out, if you track where they're going on one time, then you will be able to maybe discover hundreds of containers that were lost, and that's where they are because the people didn't know whose they were or where they should go. And so that's what GPS is kind of used for. All of them are getting within range financially, so any of those solutions would be beneficial to anybody that's using returnable containers because attrition is our biggest enemy, and using sensor technology is going to reduce that.
Yeah. And looking to the future, what practices do you foresee implementing to further close the loop and prevent leakage in like cross-border shipments and movements?
Yeah, well, for international shipments right now, we use expendable packaging. It's not cost effective. It costs us money to send it to the landfill or dispose of it or whatever you're going to do, even recycle it in some cases. So having a technology for returnable containers would benefit us from two ways. One is we don't have to reinvest in that expendable packaging, but also when we dispose of that packaging, we don't have to incur that cost. Now, what that's balanced with is a returnable transportation system. So we're bringing it across, say, from Europe. We have to get those back to Europe. Because Magna has 140 plants, our hope is that we would be able to find another plant that is shipping back to Europe, and we would be able to keep the container full both ways. And when the container's full, the odds of losing it are very slim because we have ASNs, and there's resources at the plants to be able to track them down. When the containers are empty, that's when we run into issues, and that's when they're not really tracked very well. So that's when the sensor technology would be more useful. For that little jog between the customer or the plant that used it from Europe and then the plant that's going to fill it up again and send it back to Europe. So just that little space in between. If we can avoid loss there, we got a system that's rolling.
Through the suppliers partnership, you've helped to develop guidelines on pallets, sortation, and now circularity. How close is the industry to turning those voluntary guidelines into actual enforceable rules?
We don't think we'll be able to make them a standard. I think the guidelines as they are going to stay that way. And that what we're trying to do is communicate and say that scrap that you have, that packaging that you no longer need is worth something. So this is how you make it go from an obstacle or a cost, giving it, to the landfill or something else, into a profit center for you. And we're hoping that making that a profit center will be able to entice everybody to follow the guidelines and do the sortation and do the baling and get paid for their waste, the packaging, the recyclable packaging waste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And finally, if an OEM or supplier wanted to start a single pilot tomorrow, let's say, that ties together sustainability and compliance and sensor technology, what would you point them to as the most practical starting point?
So first you have to find the product that can support it. We get a lot of motors and things like that from Europe, and so I would focus on those actuators, something like that. They come in trays usually. They are they go into clean rooms, so you need to have very clean packaging. And since the returnable containers might be in a pooled system, meaning that they go, across the ocean and then they go back full, then the dunnage that's inside of that container needs to be expendable or recyclable, reusable, but not on that same loop. So you would have to set the dunnage aside and then ship that in bulk all the way back to Europe. That would eliminate the risk of phytosanitation. Using non-wood is going to eliminate that risk. So those millions of dollars go away. So that needs to be considered when we do our calculations for that. For sensor technology, since we have the price of that coming down low, we can put, let's say, BLE, RFID, unlikely to use GPS in that scenario, but maybe, depending on the cost of the container. And if we have the sensor technology put on, then we would be able to track the drayage, the portion from the supplier location to the boat, and then after it gets off the boat, to the Magna location. So that's how it would make that whole system strong if we put all of those topics together. So we would eliminate the phytosanitation risk, we would have returnable containers and giving ourselves a little benefit for sustainability, and then of course having the lower cost sensor technology becoming available allows us to do it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bridget, thank you so much for the insights. It's been brilliant talking to you. And yeah, we'll look forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Thank you.